beginning to form at the end of the 80s called D.I.T.C, short for Diggin in the Crates. The members consisted of Showbiz AG, O.C, Big L, Fat Joe, Diamond D, Lord Finesse, and Buckwild. This is the story of D.I.T.C. The Bronx is a mecca and birthplace of hip-hop. Forest House projects in the Bronx will be the home of some of the core members of D.I.T.C. The core and the backbone of D.I.T.C start out with Lord Finesse, Diamond D, Showbiz, and Fat Joe. They all lived at Forest House's projects in the Bronx. Showbiz and Diamond D met as DJs at local park jams. They would go out to each other's houses and DJ, make beats, and also share their love for vinyl records. Finesse used to run around the neighborhood battling MCs. Finesse introduced Showbiz to AG. Everybody all bonded through their love for music. Fat Joe and Diamond D connected through their love for graffiti, and they used to graffiti together. Diamond D would actually be the very first member from the crew to get a record deal and release music.
I've been DJing since like 1980, 79. My mother bought me turntables, you know. I used to cut records back and forth. And I did that for about 10 years. Right. Well, I was in a group called Ultimate Force. We were on a small label, you know, we had a single out. Didn't really do anything.
The Ultimate Force album was supposed to release in 1989. The record label actually shelved the album, so it never officially came out. That wouldn't deter Diamond D from continuing to pursue his musical dreams. The album actually got an official release in 2007. The album also featured Fat Joe on several songs. This would be the earliest recordings that Fat Joe would be on in hip-hop.
Finesse ain't touching the mic unless he blowing it up, you know what I mean? And you know, the best MCs in the world can't stand toe-to-toe with Lord Finesse, for real. Yo.
Hey, but stop. One of the greatest that came out, straight up and down. Not because he's my man, but a lot of other people know this, but he just get underrated.
The next to drop music out the crew of D.I.T.C would be the mighty Lord Finesse. Lord Finesse entered the rap game a year later in 1990. He partnered with DJ Smooth and dropped The Funky Technician. The album would feature production from DJ Premier, and it would be the first project that had Finesse, Diamond D, Showbiz, and AG working together as a collective. This would also be around the time where Big L would be in the mix. Finesse met Big L at a record store. Big L was introduced to the crew after that. They knew right away Big L was ill. Lord Finesse was trying to get Big L on the Class Act soundtrack and also the soundtrack for the movie Trespass.
Back in '89, you know what I'm saying, on Lord Finesse's debut album, Funky Technician, I featured on 2 tracks, and one of the tracks that I was on, Showbiz was the producer. So at the time, he needed an MC, I needed a DJ, we hooked up.
An ill duo by the name of Showbiz and AG will be the next up from the D.I.T.C wave. Showbiz and AG released their debut 8-song EP called Party Groove and Soul Clap. This was originally independently released in 1991 on Showbiz's indie rap label called Showbiz Records. The EP would get an official release a year later on a major label. The most important song on the EP was a song called Diggin in the Crates. This would be the genesis of D.I.T.C as an official name.
That was an idea between Show and Diamond. That was Show and Diamond. I mean, D.I.T.C starts. It starts because AG misses a session. And Diamond and Show happen to be in the session. But before that, they want to do a production company. But they in the session together, and they do this rhyme. They do this. I wish I had this demo to this day of Diamond and Show rhyming off of Headhunters. I remember it like yesterday. And that was the start. So when we did the record Digging in the Crates, that was kind of the foundation where it started to bloom from that.
'92 was crazy. You had Stunts, Blunts, and Hip Hop by Diamond D, Runaway Slave by Showbiz and AG, literally dropped 1 month apart. These albums were the cornerstone and the benchmark to the boom bap golden era sound of dope sampling and dope production. Big L would appear on both albums, and Fat Joe would appear on the Stunts, Blunts, and Hip Hop album.
Well, you know what I'm saying? It was like back in the days, we all grew up together, the whole Digging in the Crates crew. That's Diamond D, Showbiz AG, Lord Finesse. You know what I'm saying? We always grew up in the same hood. We always used to battle each other and rhyme. Diamond make beats, Showbiz make beats. You know what I'm
The next off the crew to shine was Fat Joe. Fat Joe will release his debut album in 1993 called Represent. Fat Joe would have beats from Finesse, Showbiz, and Diamond D. Fat Joe would keep the momentum flowing for the crew.
Started with these cats, Organized Confusion. 91, 92, they let a single out called Fudge Pudge. I did a verse on there. Went on tour with them a little bit, you know. Then on the Source tour, when I was on tour with Organized, I hooked up with MC Search, formerly at Third Base. And he had a production company, and he had me and this other cat on his production company. And Nas, you know what I'm saying? It was me and Nas on his production company, and that's how I got my start. End of 93, 94, I dropped the single Time's Up. In the middle of that year, I think the album came out, you know what I'm saying? Started with these cats, Organized Confusion. 91, 92, they let a single out called Fudge Pudge. I did a verse on there. Went on tour with them a little bit, you know. Then on the Source tour, when I was on tour.
Two key members around this time in 1994 would link up, O.C and Buckwild. O.C repping Brooklyn would enter the game around 1994. O.C met Lord Finesse and Buckwild on tour and would be introduced to the crew at that time.
Well, when I came into D.I.T.C is when I met Finesse. And Finesse was doing mixtapes and I was doing mixtapes. And we went to see my boy Will from Rockin' Will. And he was like, hey, you know, can Finesse do mixtapes at your crib? You know, I was a fan of Finesse from, you know, hearing his first album, you know, after, you know, Funky Technician. So hearing Funky Technician, I walk in, and this is the guy that we be going crazy for, you know. We be playing his music all the time. I'm like, hey, you know, meeting Finesse, I was like, hey, sure. You know, I met him a couple of times before, and I'm like, yo, you know, it'd be an honor. You know, Source tour, I met O.C on the Source tour. Well, let me go backwards.
Sure.
We met Big L in the record shop first before we even left to go on tour. So L was already going to be down. Then it's like it was me and O.C. You know, when I met O.C and we cut Word Life, then it's like we got
O.C.'s debut album, Word Life, released in 1994. The D.I.T.C connection will remain strong, with the bulk of the production being produced by Buckwild and a track produced by Lord Finesse.
Yo. Check it. Then while we hold gats, you hold knives. When you sold apes, we sold pies. When you roll bikes, we drove fives. There's no comparison, son. Just embarrassing. I'm running with some of the baddest men in the whole New York. We hold the fort while you clap clats is holding. Player hating, pushing stolen whips. We at the dice game holding trips. Out of town throwing bricks, taking over. Cooking up coke with baking soda. I buy hot jewels and ice it down. While you go to the jewelry store with short dough, trying to bring the prices down. You better spread with them $30 kicks on, or get whipped on. Knocked out cold and pissed on. L is a heavyweight with steady paper. You the type to go to jail for a petty caper. Then come home on good behavior. Talking about you no longer hard now cause you a man of God.
Next in line to shine was Harlem's own Big L. Big L's gotta be the punchline king of hip hop. Big L dropped his debut album in 1995 called The Lifestyles of the Poor, Rich, and Dangerous. This album is another D.I.T.C connection with production by none other than Finesse, Showbiz, and Buckwild. During this era, shark biting was not allowed, whether it be lyrics, style, album covers, or beats. A little bit of controversy around beat jacking was going around this time. Puff Daddy had been accused of jacking Biggie's Juicy beat from Pete Rock. Now it would continue with D.I.T.C. Big L's track MVP on his debut album ended up getting remixed by Biggie for the One More Chance remix. Another track called Day One would be used for Puff Daddy's debut album in 1997. Now, D.I.T.C had a track called Day One. This ended up being Young G's featuring Jay-Z and Biggie on Puff Daddy's album. This was also around the time Finesse had a falling out with Puff Daddy.
You know what I'm saying? Because I think a lot of stuff that we used, a lot of stuff that people using now, we done did it already. You know what I'm saying? We done used it already. And I mean, we just looking to get our dues, our proper dues on what we put out there for people. Because we set a lot of shit up and people just finishing it, you know what I'm saying? But a lot of stuff, a lot of cats who had hits, like, you know what I'm saying, no disrespect to them, D.I.T.C Effects, you know what I'm saying, a few other people, Biggie, you know what I'm saying? L used the One More Chance joint, him and Finesse produced that, the MVP joint, the original joint. D.I.T.C Effects, They Want Effects, Finesse used that on his first album, right? I mean, we done touched a lot of stuff that people got hits out now for. Day One, that's on Puff's album. You know what I'm saying? I mean, but I ain't mad, you know, it's just that I'm proud of everybody doing it.
D.I.T.C's run as individuals, groups, and even on the production side from the early 90s to the year 2000 was one for the record books. A lot of slept on albums, a lot of albums people have in heavy rotation.
My man Big L put it on, one of the nicest MCs, Brother Spear, D.I.T.C, recognized.
Tragedy would unfortunately strike at the end of the 90s, right before D.I.T.C was to release their group album. Big L would unfortunately pass in the year of 1999. And then 1 year later, an unofficial but official D.I.T.C member, Big Pun, would unfortunately pass early as well. After a decade of dominance, after a decade of lyricism, raw production, DJing, every element of hip-hop was completed to perfection by the D.I.T.C crew. They would finally get their group album completed and released in the year of 2000. This would be a bookend to a perfect decade of hip-hop, and this is a dedication to one of the best groups, posses, crews ever formed, D.I.T.C.